Alright, how's it going again, YouTubers? We're doing a video today of a 2002 Dodge Dakota. We're doing some front brakes and looking at the back, so let's get to it.
So, first thing to do, we got our jack under there, and first thing I actually did was crack the nuts loose with the truck on the ground. Then throw my jack under, jack it up, get the stand ready. As you can see, the wheel turns, and then I just took off the rest of the lug nuts, keep them somewhere we don't kick them around. Probably unlike that, but yeah, so now we're ready to remove the tire and get to it. Alright, sorry for the video. I don't know exactly what's going on with my camera. It's a little grainy looking, but anyway, so here's wheels off. You see, I got the only light I could find. So there's your caliper. This is what we're going to be taking off first. You got to take off this spring here. It's just your retainer spring. Keeps everything tight. And then we're taking off one upper caliper bolt at the back here and one down here. Right there. So those two are actually already out. I've already backed those off. So then now we'll just take the caliper off. Alright, so caliper off. It was a little hard to get on. You get this ridge here, and then if the pads are obviously still tight, you know, it gets kind of hard to take it off sometimes. So yeah, just grab a hammer, give it a couple taps, usually comes off. So other than that, you know, make sure you hang up the caliper like we have. Got it nice and hung up there. And we're going to take this pad off. The other pad just fell out. And so from there, we'll take the rotor off. Actually, here you go. There's the rotor off. Just pulls right off on this model. You can see on mine, you can see, I don't know if we can get a good shot of it, but yeah, it was chewed up quite a bit. It's hard to see it on here, but there's a lot of pitting and all this on there, so that rotor's pretty well had it. I got some higher performance ones I'm going to put on. As you can see from the last time I had this off, the bearing was replaced, and we actually threw some anti-seize on there, which makes things come off a hell of a lot easier the next time. And as you can see, it works pretty good because I haven't had this off in probably a year or so, and the anti-seize is still there. So, alright, so we'll continue on. Okay, so as I was looking at this, one thing that has helped me with trucks before, certain models, some of the newer cars, as you can see here, first thing, I don't know if you see, but there's a divot there and there's a divot there, and those two little divots, and there's one here, that's, see where it's shiny basically there, those two spots, one there and one there, that's basically where your pads are riding a bit back and forth. Now if they wear into that steering knuckle or spindle or whatever you want to call it, everyone seems to call it something different, your pads could possibly get caught and not release properly. So one good thing to do is, you know, depending on the severity, you can kind of sand them down a bit, get some of that rust out of there. I usually throw some anti-seize back on it. Obviously over time it disappears though. I usually use a good old-fashioned air tool for it. Right now I got all my tools at home that I would normally use at the shop because I'm looking for work. But you know, if you don't have that at home, just some sandpaper will do. Although you can get angle grinders like that for pretty cheap nowadays, and they make real quick work of, you know, rusty stuff. So it's a good idea just to clean that up so you don't have to come back in again or possibly ruin your new pads that you put on. Alright, let's keep going. Alright, so we cleaned those up. You can see they're nice and shiny now. And just cleaned off just the surface rust. You don't want to take off too much surface because then the pads will be kind of loose. Although Now, with some pad kits, they'll give you these. They're just like little clips that you can put on the end of the pad. It's supposed to take up the space so they're not chattering around. These are on the old pads, and so we're going to go ahead and throw those clips on the new pads. And we're pretty well ready to go back. I'm going to put little anti-seize on the hub here, just so, again, it's easy to get the rotor off in the future. On my girlfriend's car last year, I mean, no anti-seize on the hubs. They're from the factory still. She'd driven them 70,000 kilometers, hadn't done a brake job yet. And those rotors were on there. I mean, I had to beat those things off with a hammer, like literally. So, and chisel even I had in there a bit. So it was, they're pretty on there. So to avoid that and the hassle, you throw a little anti-seize, and the next time it'll be good to go. Alright. Alright, let's keep her going. Look at this. The sun's out. Isn't that nice? First time in a while. So, we'll go back in here. I want to show you some of the new stuff I'm putting on. These are basically supposed to be higher heat resistant. That seems to be the problem with most of these brake pads. These are EBC brakes, sport rotors. They're supposed to be higher heat, which seems to be the problem with all the brakes put on this thing. I've inspected everything you can with this thing. Everything seems to be working well. It just seems to chew up brakes. And a lot of guys on the forums for Dakotas say the same thing. A lot of guys switch to higher heat brakes, or there's even an upgrade you can do. You can switch the O2s, all the O2 hardware, over to O3. And 03 or 04 brakes, and that seems to work. So those are the rotors I'm putting on. As you can see, they're a little more heavy duty than the other ones. And these ones here, these are the pads that are going on. And well, they look like brake pads, but they are they're Hawk Performance pads. And these have had some good reviews as well. Here's something we're going to need. Sure. It usually comes with your brake kits. You got, it's just basically grease. Just, they call it brake grease, but it's grease. Put on the pads, stops them from squeaking. And we're also going to be using some lube for the slide pins on the caliper, which I'll show you in a minute. Alright, so like I was saying, the slide pins, those are basically just the bolts that we took, that I was showing you to take out to get the caliper off earlier, and they just slide out. And as you can see, it's actually, this one's not too bad. It is dirty, definitely dirty, but I need to clean that off and get some new grease in there. These things are horrible for letting moisture in. And I think most of it comes in from this side. They have a little rubber boot here, but I think it comes in through there and gets it all crappy. So anyway, we're going to kind of clean those off a bit, sand them, use some sandpaper or something to clean off the rust. And then we'll pack them full of grease. I like to use, I don't know, this is what I've always used, is Ultra Slick brake grease. I use it on the actual synthetic brake lubricant, so I just use that for the slide pins. And it works pretty good. So, anywho, I'll keep going here. Next thing I'll show you is these new brake rotors. Oh, here's one thing. Here's the little slide pins again. We've cleaned them up. They're nice and shiny now. And they'll be going back on to get lubed back in and get put back into the caliper. These new rotors, when you buy them, they come with a protective coating so that they don't rust, right? So that coating, you get yourself a bottle of, whoops, not French, God forbid, brake cleaner, and you give it a good spray both sides of these surfaces here, and then nice clean rag, wipe it off, and that'll just, it's a good thing to do. You want to get that off. A lot of people don't do it. They drive down the road, you get all this smoke coming out because it's burning off that layer of film. Not that it's a real bad thing, but it can cause some issues, and some people think that the brakes are having a problem. They're not, it's just that surface of product being burnt off. Alright, so we're going to do that, and then I will show you the reinstallation. Alright, so one thing to note, I got the rotors on, the new one. Before I even put the caliper on, put a nut at the bottom because it'll hold the rotor tight while you fiddle with all this stuff. So we got the new pads in, the caliper's back on, and these two slide pins need to go back in, one down there and one right there. Alright, so this thing is pretty well ready to get tightened up. Make sure you do your torque specs, and all you have to really do is you got torque specs for those two caliper bolts and then your wheel nuts. So look those up before you put it back together, and you should be all good. So that's pretty much how you do a front brake job on a Dodge Dakota. It's not too hard. There's only, you know, your two bolts and your nuts there, and everything else is just pretty much just spending time doing it. You don't need a lot of tools. I pretty much just had a couple wrenches and things, you know, standard socket sizes. The actual caliper is a 7mm hex socket, and just so you know, when I put these slide pins back in, the slide pins, basically I usually just put a little lube on my fingers, put it into the boot, kind of pack the boot a bit, slide that through. I'm a little anal, and I usually clean the threads off a bit on the other side. When it pops through, it's got lube all over it, so I get that off, and then I usually rub a bit on the actual slide pin as well. So those should be pretty good, and you know, able to slide back and forth once you get it tightened up. So, alright. Alright, so we got the wheel back on. A couple of things that just kind of came to mind when I was doing this. When you put the wheel back on, again, the same thing. You put the wheel on, get one nut started at the bottom just to hold it in place so it's not popping off. And then, of course, get all the other ones going. Another thing, make sure, you know, you use your star pattern. You want it to evenly suck in, so you're going basically like this, back and forth, across from one another, your star pattern. So, and that evenly draws it in. You can get a good torque on it. What I do is I just tighten them up good and tight right now, as tight as I can, just with my foot holding the tire from moving, and then I'll lower the jack down a bit, just until the tire touches the ground enough to grab. I don't lower it all the way, but enough so there's a bit of weight on the tire so it won't move. Then I torque it to spec. Then I lower the tire completely down to the ground. Alright, so this side's done. The other side's going to be exactly the same, so I'm not taping that, but it should be good to go, and then I'll hopefully get some footage of the back, and we'll see what's going on back there, if anything. Alright, well, I started to take the one back side apart. The drum was on there like crazy. Yes, we backed off the star wheel as far as we could, and it wasn't really coming off. I got it off, but it was pretty tight. It didn't look bad. The shoes back there were okay. I do have a little bit of a leak in one of the wheel cylinders, so there's going to be another video on doing the back brakes for sure. I just kind of ran out of time today. I got other stuff I want to do with my weekend, so we'll have another new video with that shortly, because I want to get the back brakes done as soon as possible. The fronts are all together. I took it out, kind of seated in the brakes a bit, did a couple stops. You know, you go maybe your usual like 40 kilometers an hour, so 50 kilometers an hour, slow down to a stop, then you know, a couple faster stops. Just basically wears off that coating they have that comes with it. So other than that, I'm gonna go get some dinner because I'm hungry. And alright, I'll see you guys next time.